What's up, Poke fans? Welcome back to the Pokemon Astra Adventures 2 playthrough, which we're doing as a Nuzlocke. Previous episodes, we have took on 2 gym leaders, the latest being Brock. We've also had a run-in with the bad guys, Team Astra, who've obviously replaced Team Rocket in this. So if you haven't seen, I suggest you go back and watch it. Now we've got to make our way through Mount Moon, and as you can see, our rivals standing out front, stopping us from getting through. So we're going to have a battle. He leads off with Mankey. Fortunately for him, we've got Bob, who just one-hit KOs with a wing attack. Up next, he sends out Munchlax, which can be a bit of a trouble. Even though it's a baby Pokemon, it is quite bulky. We switch out into Jeffrey, and because Bob was out there, he goes for Rollout. We go for a Razor Leaf. It doesn't do much, and obviously Rollout, the more turns it hits, the harder it hits. So we're in a bit of trouble here. We decide to go for another Razor Leaf, and thankfully he misses, because I think if he hits that one, we possibly lose the whole of this Nuzlocke. But another Razor Leaf, I think it was a bit of an overkill with a critical hit, but we take him out. Up next comes his last Pokemon, which is Charmander. How it hasn't evolved when it's level 20 is beyond me, but we switch in Bob. We go for a wing attack, he goes for Dragon Breath, we get a crit. Wing attack takes him just into the red, and so does a Fire Fang. Good job he missed that first one. And that's the battle over with. After the battle, Susan evolves into Raticate, and spoiler alert, this Pokemon hits very hard. I think it's an underappreciated Pokemon because of it being a normal Pokemon. After the battle, he thinks that there's something wrong because we're much stronger than him. He talks about that he spoke to some police officers and that Team Astra are running wild. We then tell him that obviously we beat him, and then because we beat him, he thinks that he'd have a good chance. He tells us to go through Mount Moon, where we'll arrive at Cerulean City and there's another gym leader there, but obviously we already knew that anyway. He then runs off into the cave, so we run back to heal. Once we're fully healed up, we head on into Mount Moon, and obviously we can get another encounter in here as well, which money is on Zubat, because you always find Zubats in here, and lo and behold, that's what we find. I'm not actually that bothered though, because I do quite like Crobat, and Golbat's actually bulkier than you think, but we use Wendy to slowly dwindle it down to the point where it's low enough and we can throw a Pokeball and catch it. Now that we've caught it, we go ahead and give it a nickname, which, sticking with all the other basic names, we go ahead and call it Zach. No idea why I called it this, but that's what we ended with. After that, we had many battles throughout the whole of Mount Moon, starting off with this lass who has a baby Pokemon in Cleffa. Obviously you can find the evolution Clefairy in here, but because it's a fairy type, it doesn't really stand much against Poison Sting. It does have a berry juice though, but it doesn't really do anything for it. It gets taken out in the next hit anyway. She then also has the evolution, which is a Clefairy, and this suffers the same fate. It does get off 5 hits on double slap, sorry, but then another Poison Sting takes it down. Then we have a scientist who has a Magnemite. Thankfully Dorothy takes this out. Does survive on little HP though because of Sturdy, gets off a Sonic Boom but doesn't get the KO on us. Then he has a Voltorb, and I'm a little bit worried because of how frail Dorothy is, so I switch out into Jeffrey and he goes for a tackle. I think it probably would have KO'd because Dorothy's not the bulkiest, especially if the Sonic boomed, but then Jeffrey comes in and takes it out. Dorothy wants to learn Sucker Punch, which it's a bit of coverage. Thankfully after that, Gary evolves into Gyarados, so he's actually usable now. Such a strong Pokemon to have so early on as well. Next up is Lassamanda, who has a Bellsprout. We switch out into Bob, and this flower, or whatever you want to call it, doesn't really stand much chance. One wing attack takes it down. Susan learning Aerial Ace for coverage as well. Next up is Audition. This suffers the same fate. Single wing attack and it's all over. Next up is Bugcatcher Kenny. Don't know what he's doing in Mount Moon, but he is, and he's got a Mushroom Paris. We actually go for Susan here, and Aerial Ace just takes it out. We then find a new area where it appears that this is the fossil lab, which I thought we wouldn't find until later on. This guy also tells you that you can mine on the coloured tiles in the Mount Moon. So we talk to these NPCs who just tell us about fossil Pokemon. And then we go over and talk to the scientist behind the desk, and we can go and give him a fossil. We've also got a Helix fossil, which I did get from doing some mining because I wanted to test it out, but we give him the old amber, and we find out we can't actually get it off him because our team's full. So I just left it there for now. I might go back at some point and get it. We also grab a water stone down here, which I think is the first evolution item that we've seen. And I'm not 100% sure if this is a new area, so I kind of consider it Mount Moon, where we've already had our encounter, so I don't catch this Geodude, I just knock it out instead. A little bit of XP for Dorothy, I suppose. After that, we can head on back into Mount Moon and continue making our way through, battling more people. So youngster Shane with his Zubat. We switch out into Gary, first time using him, and the Zubat goes for Astonish, which doesn't do nothing. He does confuse us though, which is a little bit annoying, but thankfully we don't get hit. Up next he sends a male Nidoran. For some reason I thought it was ground type, so I went for Bubble. We ended up getting poisoned, so then I go for a bite and it KOs. Next up is Hiker Max with Geodude. We go for a Bulldoze, takes it down to half. Rock Throw, even if it's resisted, does a back quarter, and then another Bulldoze finishes it. We also found this area where this guy talks to you and he gives you the Alolan region form of Geodude. Again, it's not something that I'm going to use, so it will likely just stay in the box. I think it's pretty cool that you can see Staryus in here though. Next up's Hiker Daniel with his Sandshrew. We go out into Gary to get some XP on it. Sandshrew also has really low special defense, so Bubble takes it out in one hit. Next up he has a Mankey, so we switch out into Bob, who will take this out in one hit. Then another Hiker who has an Onix. I was a little worried here because Onyx can sometimes hit hard, so I switched that into Jeffrey. Go for a Razor Leaf, and obviously these rock tombs aren't really doing anything. He does survive though because he's got Sturdy, and then his Citrus Berry gives him a little bit of HP, but it's not going to change anything. Jeffrey wanted to learn Body Slam here, but I was quite happy with my current moveset. I'm sure it's something he doesn't normally learn. And then as we arrive at the end of Mount Moon, we find Team Astra, who are trying to bully this nerd into giving him the fossils. He spots that we're there, so he asks for a hand, and then while the Astra grunts are distracted by us, he runs off and leaves us. I mean, what's all that about? Obviously in the original games, Team Rocket are here, not Astros. But they lead off with a Krabby and a Magby. We go for a Bubble, and then a Hyper Fang on the Krabby. Just about doesn't do enough, but they haven't really got super effective attacks, and we are fully evolved Pokemon, so it shouldn't be too difficult. Hyper Fang finishes off the Krabby, and then all we've got left is Magby. We go for a Sucker Punch just to finish it, and that's Team Astra dealt with again. They do warn us that we are now on their radar and we need to watch our back, but we've handled them a few times now, so there's nothing really to worry about. We then continue on through, and I think we're pretty much at the end here. So here are the items that we encounter throughout. We've got a Rare Candy, Super Potion, we got a TM for Rock Polish, we also got an item in this rock which is Stardust, we got the TM for Bullet Seed, Escape Rope, we got a Revive down here, we also found a Moonstone which is another evolution stone, we got a Nugget which you can sell for a lot of money, and then just up here by the Zubat there's a Super Potion. As we exit Mount Moon onto Route 4, the Super Nerd is waiting for us. Says that he feels sorry for not coming back, so he offers us to take one of the fossils. Because I'd already got a Helix fossil, I decided to go for the Dome fossil. He then wants to change his mind, but I'm not being funny, you've just given me, like, you're not having it back. And then we jump down here and we get a Firestone as well. And then normally there's two of these guys, Mega Punch and Mega Kick, but this guy gives you the TM for Dragon Range, which I'm pretty sure has never been a TM before. This guy tells you about if you run away from wild Pokemon that are in the overworld, you can get EXP candies or items. We then get collared by Looker as we walk into Cerulean City, who tells us that we can get taxis now by each Pokemon Center, which has obviously replaced Fly. He also tells us that the Astra that took the pages out of the journal was about legendary Pokemon, so he tasks us with going to speak to Bill just up from Cerulean City, and then once we've done that he wants us to meet him in Saffron City, which is apparently where his headquarters are. So after that we talk to this guy who it turns out is the air taxi transporter, and then we decide to explore Cerulean City, see what freebies we can get, all useful information. We head into this house where there's nothing in here apart from some kid who's clearly had too many E numbers. I mean, wow, he's going to be sick after that. We walked into this building not realising that it was just the Pokemon. I should know by now what they look like. And then there's not an actual bike building, but this guy's clearly the bike owner, and he gives us one for free so we can advertise it. This woman tells us about your obedience of your Pokemon depends on how good of a trainer you are. I mean, clearly we knew that. This woman tells us that there was something in the waterfall, so we click on it and it turns out there is, and it's in fact a horsey. So this is an actual encounter, which obviously you don't normally get, and I wouldn't mind using a Kingdra. That bubbled it quite a lot. So we go ahead and throw a Pokeball thinking that it will be weak enough, and it's clearly not. So we decide to go for a netball because it gets a bit of a boost capture rate because of it being a water Pokemon, and that's obviously enough. We go ahead and call the horsey Charles, seeing as it's a male, based off the new King of England, Charles himself. After we've caught the horsey, he drops the dragon scale, which is the item I think you need to evolve Seadra into Kingdra. After that we head into this house, and I think if I hadn't have picked Bulbasaur as a starter, we would have probably got given one there. And then we just get a bit of useful information if you don't already know in here, and then this guy gives us some berries, which they're not really useful, they just boost your stats when like you're in red health. And then this Paris decides that we are not leaving and decides to try and block us in. And then all that's left to do is this last building, which turns out it's like a trade house. So this guy wants to trade Poliwag for Smoochum, and then this girl wants to trade Paris for Pikachu, and then he wants to trade a Magnemite for a Sandshrew. Fortunately we don't have none of them Pokemon though. And then we need to head up, but I feel like there's going to be a lot of content going up there, which would have possibly took this to a long video. So we end the video there, and obviously next video we'll head up because I think Misty's going to be there, as well as speaking to Bill, which we need to do as well. So thank you everyone for watching, and I hope to see you on the next one. Peace out.